Rajyog, Pranam Mantra. Om Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suray Sachit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. In Rajyog, we covered up to Sutra number 28, where it was mentioned that Yoganga Anushtanat Ashuddhikshaya. Once you perform the practices associated with yoga, the impurities of the mind go away. We discussed it. Just to mention, just Swamiji very beautifully puts it, that what we have been speaking about is much higher. Things that we have been discussing. Those of you who have been listening to these talks, today I was talking to a friend when we reached this conclusion that our talks in English are pretty intense. And only those people will listen to these talks who are really serious about these things. You have to be pretty serious about this. A few days ago, I got one message on YouTube. Some lady had written about one of my Bengali talks. I should make my talks shorter, and there should be more stories in the talks so that people can relate with. Well, I didn't reply. I wish to say that there are so many channels, so many speakers doing that. Why not leave one channel for the serious seekers? I don't mean seeker is not the right word. I mean serious students, those who want to know the subject. Even then, what we mean to say that even for those serious students, forget about those who are running after pop spirituality. Those of you who have been listening to these talks, you realize how intense the subject is. Swami Vivekananda has made it pretty easy compared to what we get in Patanjali. And I've been trying to explain it in as simple words as possible. Even then, you will find it pretty difficult. But what is being discussed here is that philosophy part has been discussed. Now we come to the practical part. Now, here, before we begin with the eight limbs of yoga, the very famous Ashtanga Yoga, 8 limbs. There are two things we need to understand. That now that we are on YouTube, we find many people contacting us. And sometimes you find that people are eager to know about the philosophy part without going for the practical aspect. And there are people who want the practical thing without going for the philosophy aspect. In life, why and how, both are important. If you go only for the why, it's of no use. It becomes a theoretical knowledge. Ishopanishad, we have this talk, Ishopanishad, on YouTube. Andam tama pravishanti yavidyam upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo yau vidyayam rata. Those who go for rituals, those who go for the practicalities, they end up in darkness. But those who remain theoretical, they go in greater darkness. If you really want growth in life, you have to have both the practical knowledge as well as the philosophy behind it. Now, once we start this discussion, another thing that we need to understand, there's a difference between being and achieving. Being something. You want to be something. You want to be somebody. And you want to achieve something. There's a major difference. And every one of us, each one of us needs to understand this. Very often, when we talk about being something, being someone, we often mistake it by achievement. We want to achieve something. Now, achievement is always in the external world, being is entirely in the inner world. Once you are into a system of knowledge, the first step to wisdom is you need to use the correct words. You will see that those who are into management, they have certain expressions. We do borrow from management, and management people also borrow from us. But when you are into a system of thought, you need to be very clear about the words that you are using. The words need to be right. Otherwise, our philosophy of life gets confused. And once our philosophy of life gets confused, we end up being nowhere. Now, most often, when you find the youngsters of present times talking, they talk about being there in life, being this, being that. They forget this fundamental thing that every time they talk about being there and being here, they mean to say that they want to achieve something in the external world. Nothing wrong with it, because unless you have achieved a lot in the world, it's very difficult to give up the world. Once, long ago, I was pretty young. I was reading Rajneesh. I was never a great fan of his, not at all a fan of his. And there he had mentioned that he was quoting some monk. First, have the strength to acquire a kingdom and then give it up like Buddha. And then he said, why acquire a kingdom when you have to give it up? Even when young, I realized the folly of the argument. The problem is, mind does not become satisfied unless you have acquired, unless you have tasted. And Hindu religion repeatedly talks about this. And that's why we talk about dharma, earth, and calm. You have to have achievement in life. Unless you have achievement in life, you can never give up the world. And believe me, dear listeners, I'm here in monastic life. I have known monks. I've been in the Himalayas. I have been at other places. I have been to Jain, to Omkareshwar. I've seen people. I mean monks. And I've known them intimately. Somewhere they get stuck up. Somewhere they fail to generate that power, the turbo. The correct word is turbo, that will propel them up. Why? Because they never try to build up that energy in the mind. And that energy in the mind is built only when you have walked in the world, you have acquired, and you have the clear feeling that you can achieve anything in this world. And once you have reached that level, then you say that I don't want all this. The renunciation of a beggar, Swamiji repeatedly talks about. Every beggar wants to make a gift of $1 million. That's not how gifts are made. One of our mm, very renowned monks, he's an American, he's from America. So he was very close to one of our monks, senior monks. He's passed away. And so once he told that, Swamiji, I want to be a monk. And the senior monk laughed and told him, what do you have to renounce? You have not achieved anything. You don't have any strength. You have to have strength. You must feel, see, you want to give up everything for, say, Shiva. You want to give up everything for Krishna. But you want to give up what? What do you have? In Ramakrishna Mission, it's not really about giving up. Here, at least you come to serve. But there also they will say that what talent you have, what qualities you have through which you want to serve the society. My teacher, I have many monk teachers. I heard him once, he was talking to a young man. And young man told that, if I have to become a monk, why study? And then Ram Maharaj, Swami Mokshadanji Maharaj, he smiled and he told, what will God do with a bunch of fools, bunch of illiterates? God also needs capable people. Please understand this. And this is where India sunk down. India went down and down and down simply because we mistook tamas for sattva. We mistook laziness for equanimity. Laziness and equanimity, they look alike. Once I was talking about two kids when they're adults. They're PhD in computers. They're black belt in karate, and they're deep into religion. And then you feel that, yes, here is strength. Where is the strength? You need to have strength. And once you have that strength, you feel you can achieve anything. You test it here and there, and then you say, no, I don't want, and then you give up. That is when real monasticism begins, and that is where real religion, real spirituality begins. Till then, you continue to be as lazy in spiritual life as you have been in the worldly life. If you are a failure in the world, you will end up being a failure in spiritual life too. So, saying this, what I wanted to say was that achievement is indeed important, but do not confuse that with being here and being there. Being is about inner transformation. Being is about your feeling. Now, when you want to be someone, when you want to be something, when you want to take yourself up somewhere, the most important thing is you have to think and act like the accomplished. You want to be a truthful person. Gandhiji wanted to practice truthfulness in his life. He wanted to practice non-violence, truth and non-violence. Gandhiji can be criticized for 1,000 things, but nobody can criticize him for these two things, truth and non-violence. What did he do? He reoriented his thoughts and he reoriented his way of life towards truth and non-violence. If you want to be a yogi, you need to reorient yourself. You need to think and act like an accomplished yogi, not like a struggling yogi. And what exactly is an accomplished yogi? Accomplished yogi is one who knows that his Atman, his soul. Soul has certain qualities. See, normally we talk about soul having no quality. That's true. But seen from the world, soul has certain qualities. First quality is, it is beyond tamas, rajas, and sattva. So anything that is there in this world which belongs to tamas, rajas, and sattva, that must not be practiced by us. But if you do not practice this, how will you live in the world? So they say that first thing is that you give up tamas, then you give up rajas, and then you give up finally sattva too. That is what we have been discussing as far as our philosophy is concerned. This entire discussion, this what we are going to discuss, the 8 limbs of yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. It is just elaboration of what Purusha is. And as far as the world of mind is concerned, what exactly stops you from being established in the knowledge that you are Purusha? Is the mind. Mind, by its innate nature, mind is made that way. You cannot blame mind for that. The way these Christians, they blame everything to Satan and devil and like that. Hindus try to put everything onto Maya. No, Maya has no existence. Mind has existence. When you are discussing Sankhya and Yoga, mind does have an existence. Mind, mind is Sattva Rajas Tamas. Being Sattva Rajas Tamas, first you need to get rid of Tamas, then you need to get rid of Rajas. Be established in Sattva, and then take the final leap from there too. What we are going to discuss now is about getting rid of Tamas, getting rid of Rajas, and then finally getting rid of Sattva too. When we are talking about sadhana is just stepping stone. And see, very often youngsters come to us. Sometimes they mail, sometimes on Facebook, and sometimes personally. They want to meditate. Meditation is a very high state. It requires certain preparation. First of all, understanding. Just to give you a simple example, when during the Second World War, America was building its atomic bomb. So there were certain departments, they were going very slow. And then Richard Feynman, my very favorite writer, not as a scientist, but as a writer. So he was kind of tasked to go to group of engineers who were working on certain projects. So Richard Feynman told Oppenheimer, who was the project head, that he needs to tell them what exactly they are working upon. So there was some kind of conflict, but finally Oppenheimer agreed. And then Feynman went, called a meeting of those engineers who were working on that project and explained that, see, actually we are building a bomb. And this word must not leak out. And this is what we are doing, etc., etc. And those engineers, they put themselves on that project with such heart that what they were not able to get in a week, they were getting in a day. First, it must be very clear what you are doing and why you are doing. But simply if you give some rote work, something that you give which is of which we do not understand, it becomes so boring. There is another story about a painting in a church where an artist was asked to paint a big piece of canvas just yellow. And he was bored and he was not able to focus. And then the father of that church, he decided that to bring some enthusiasm in this painter's attitude, he had to be given a complete perspective what exactly it was. Then he took the painter to that the master plan, what exactly they were planning to paint. And it was like Jesus was there and sun was rising and yellow sun like that. And it was going to be a huge canvas. And this painter had been given the job of painting that yellow portion of that sun. And then he understood. And he put himself through that painting with really great enthusiasm. When you are into practicing this yoga, when you want to practice meditation, you need to understand what exactly meditation is and where it is going to take you and why. And after that, you need to think like a yogi, act like a yogi. Why? What's the difference between, say, me and a yogi? You will say that I am also a yogi. Well, ordinary yogi. Or putting it in a better term, what's the difference between an ordinary yogi and a great yogi? The difference is ordinary yogi is still moving in the realm of mind, and a real yogi has gone beyond the realm of mind to the realm of pure consciousness, where there is no tamas, no rajas, no sattva. With this, we begin Sutra number 29. Those of you who have studied yoga would know the 8 limbs: Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. Samadhi is the last stage. When people come to us, first thing they want is, just before Samadhi is Dhyana. We want to learn meditation. How can you learn meditation? Meditation is the seventh, Samadhi is the last. How can you reach Dhyan straight away unless you have practiced the early stages? No, it cannot be done. Now, we are not interested about the non-serious ones and those who are the tourists in the spiritual world. You go to the Himalayas, there are two kinds of people. One, the tourists who have gone there for 5-7 days and then will come back, and there are people who are residents. If you want to be a tourist in spiritual life, if you want to be a tourist in yoga, you go listen to some of those popular talks and come back thinking that now you know everything. But if you want to be a resident, you want to be a permanent resident, then everything has to change. Why this change? Because you need to get out of tamas, rajas, and sattva. So yama, niyam, asan, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, samadhi. I will not be translating these words unnecessarily because we are getting into the explanation of each of these terms. Some of these terms have been explained by Patanjali, and in some cases there are certain descriptions. We will just follow him. But I'll go in detail because this is the practical aspect of yoga. And although many of you might be knowing about this practical aspect of yoga, but I feel that it won't do you any harm if you listen to this elaboration once again. Yama is being defined. Yama is basically inner control, some kind of controlling yourself. Or you can say the first stages of self-control, things that can be done easily. Or you can say values. Niyama are virtues. There is a difference between values and virtues. Those of you who might have read Carving a Sky, they have made a clear distinction between values and virtues. Values are universal in nature, virtues are personal. Values are something that everyone needs to practice. And virtues are extremely individual. Ahimsa satya asteya, brahmacharya, ahimsa, aparigraha, yama. Certain self-control, the 5. It begins with ahimsa, satyam. Ahimsa is non-violence, satya is truthfulness, and asteya is non-stealing, brahmacharya is continence, aparigraha is non-acceptance of gifts. So very interestingly, you will see that if you start pushing any one of these intensely and to depth, one will change into another. For example, say ahimsa, non-violence. When you tell a lie, you are injuring truth. When you are stealing, you are injuring wealth. Just like that. Same with satya also. Now, if you actually practice any one of these, you will see that other 5 values have come to you. You just need to practice one. Of course, it is better to practice all 5 simultaneously. That creates more power and things can be accomplished quickly. However, even if you decide to practice just any one of these values, you will see that the other remaining 4, they have come to you. So now, let's see. Ahimsa, first thing. Very often these things will also be described by some philosophers as ethics. It's much more than ethics. It is your way of life. Non-violence. What is non-violence? Non-violence is not injuring others, non-killing. And this particular sutra, that is Yama, Buddhists follow it to such level that that has become the major part of their religion. Violence takes place in the mind, and violence is caused by tamas. You are so self-obsessed with your survival that you are ready to injure anybody. Second state of violence comes when you want to prove your superiority. This comes from rajas. Hingsa, that is violence, it comes because of two reasons. First is tamas, where it's brutal, you become brutal. If you are rajas, you are not brutal. Even then, there will be killing. There is nothing called a righteous war. War is never righteous. But there might be a party which is more established, say, in tamas, and another party who is established more in rajas. But established in sattva, that's slightly difficult. We can think of Sri Ramchandra, we can think of Sri Krishna. But there also, when they are attacking their enemies, some rajas has to come. Without rajas, you cannot attack. However, those are exceptional cases. Coming down to our level, we tend to be violent in two forms. One is brutal. I have seen people. It has been my misfortune to have interacted with people of many hues. And one favorite example of mine is I was staying at Swami Vivekananda's ancestral house. I was posted there for a year from the university. And there was a security person. And he wanted to take the bicycle of one of our staff. And the staff refused. Now, after a while, when that staff, he found that the tube had punctured. So he took it to the puncture shop. It can always, air inside might also always deflate. Now, when the tube was removed for correcting the puncture, around 75 nails were found in it. Imagine 75 nails. That security man, because he was refused that bicycle, there was that workshop, some wooden workshop was going on, carpentry work was going on. So he took nails from there and he put around 75 nails in that wheel. And the entire tube and tire was as if oozing with nails. When I heard of the incident, I was shaken. I was shaken by the sheer brutality of that person. And I was kind of terrified that imagine the kind of violence he's carrying in his head. Supposing he got angry and he removed the valve with air gone out, one can understand, you can get angry. This is being brutal. This is the extreme of tamas. This is violence. When you get angry, when you might be getting angry, just see how long your anger lasts. And are you being brutal? Sometimes our monks use this expression about some monks. He's brutally honest. He's brutal. When you say he's brutally honest, means that you tend to hurt others by your words. When you tend to hurt others by your words, it only means that there are elements of tamas inside you. You move over our beloved country, India, and people will be talking about vegetarianism and this and that, and extolling the non-violence of Gandhiji without realizing what exactly non-violence is. You can be a vegetable eater, you might be a dung eater, you might be a cow dung eater, and yet you might be a violent person. The example that I gave you. And such violent persons you will find everywhere. You go to forest and you might come across people who have such kind of violence. And you go to these corporate offices and these management, those offices that have highly qualified managers, you'll see how brutal they can be. It only means that they are so full of tamas. I mean, they are slightly refined. They are more of rajas. Then also they are violent. They are not that brutal. If you just say, oh, you are great, the person will calm down. But brutal persons won't. And next comes Satya. Now, going back to Ahimsa once again. Can you ever get into the act of violence? Oh yes, sure. Provided your mind is not swayed by selfishness. Provided your mind is not swayed by tamas and rajas. And if you feel that indeed this should be done. For example, there is a surgeon who takes a knife and makes an incision because he wants that you should be cured. But that's not violence. We often mistake certain acts as violence. You're trying to do good. There's a gardener. He prunes the plants so that the plants may grow much better. Now that's not violence. Violence is a state of mind, and so is truth. Sri Krishna is such a wonderful example of both ahimsa and satya. And of course, asteya and brahmacharya and aparigraha. He is such a wonderful example, Sri Krishna, because we never came across such a wonderful character. Entire Mahabharata war, Sri Krishna was conducting. Thousands and thousands were dying. Sri Krishna was completely detached. And when it comes to truth, Sri Krishna, he would always get into telling lies. And yet he is God. Why? Because it comes from here. Now, if I tell a lie, if you tell a lie, it's definitely a lie, no doubt. Because we will be telling a lie because of our selfish interest. We would be telling a lie because of tamas, because of our desire to survive. And sometimes because of rajas, because we want to feel superior. Sometimes out of sattva. Out of sattva also you can tell a lie. Why? There, you want to be good. A kid wants to be looked as being good by, say, his or her parents. That's a sattva desire. It's not rajas or tamas. So he commits some mischief and says, no, I have not done it. It's not born out of tamas. It's not born out of rajas. But when he brags with his friends, that is guided by rajas. So these things need little understanding unless it's clarified by a teacher to you. But you can understand if you just apply. Whether is it because of your survival, desire to survive, then it's tamas. Is it because you want appreciation in your peer group, then it's because of rajas. But there is strong bond of love, very strong bond of love, and then you tell a lie because you don't want to fall down from the eyes of that person. That's pardonable. But yogi is not into any of these. He doesn't have to worry about survival. A yogi doesn't have to worry about proving his worth. And a yogi doesn't have to tell lies simply to be in good book of someone he loves. There's yogi is not bound by, struggling yogi. He's not. And of course, one who is perfect, for him, these things do not matter. Satya, truth. We tell lies because of these three reasons: tamas, rajas, and sattva. Hingsa, that's also because of these three reasons. You want to be a yogi, you have decided to be a yogi, so why bother about these things? You don't have to tell lies. When you are in an organization, when you are in a society, there might be situation where you may have to tell lies or you may have to do slightly this side, that side. But that is because you are not going all out for yoga. Once you go all out for yoga, then these things drop away automatically. You don't have to interact. And I have seen monks who, knowing that if they tell the truth, someone will be harmed, they will simply say, I won't say. And they have the courage. So once, to give you an example, once it so happened that I had seen something wrong somewhere. And I was casually mentioning, and my head, he noted down the name. And suddenly I realized that this person may be harmed. I immediately said, no, 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 please give me back that paper. I don't want this person to be harmed. I don't want to be responsible for this. No, 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 no way. He's doing wrong. Thakur will see, God will see. And there are others who would love to see the downfall of that person, not me. So my head, he was kind enough to give back that paper. I'm talking casually. I can talk casually. I can say this, I can say that. But if somebody comes to harm, no, that's not what I will want. The moment we discuss ethics, or automatically conflict of ethics, ethical dilemma comes. And beyond ethical dilemma comes your way of life where these things do not matter. You just say, I won't say. I won't say. Refusal to say does not belong to any of these moral values. You can always say, I won't discuss. So how do you get out of this situation where you have to tell a lie and you have done something, but you don't want to tell a lie? You just say that I'm not in a position to tell you that. Finished. And I've seen our administrators at Belur Mutt, our elders, very often we have seen. They simply say that we are not discussing this. That's the end of it. They cannot tell the truth. They won't tell a lie. So they will just bypass. But anyway, this is a huge thing in Mahabharata. There are lots of discussions when you can tell a lie, etc. But that's for continuing in the society. If you are in the society, there are certain things you need to do. But we are discussing yoga. We are discussing how to be a yogi. Our caption is being yogi, being a yogi. Once you have decided to be a yogi, then these things do not matter. Then society does not matter. Your mind does not matter. Your happiness does not matter. What matters is getting out of tamas, rajas, and sattva. And then these things do not matter. Right now, we are discussing yoga philosophy. We are discussing the highest principles and practices of yoga. There can be no compromise. Compromises will be only when you are in the society. You want to lead a good life in the society. Once you want to be a yogi, these things are over. Next is brahmacharya. Brahmacharya is not having sex. Our Patanjali will describe later that brahmacharya plays a very important role in the life of a yogi because of two reasons. One is mind gets distracted if you are into sexual acts, whatever kind of sex, immaterial of what kind of sex you are into. And second is it takes away your vital inner energies. Now, very often we don't know of these vital inner energies, but in Indian tradition and in yoga, this plays a very important role. As far as distraction, that every adult knows. If you are into that thing, your mind gets distracted, and it can create havoc. Very often we meet youngsters who come to us to know how to get out of this problem. There is no simple way. There's absolutely no simple way. At least I do not know what to say. I have no answer. It's about practices, and even Jesus says it's better to marry than to burn. That means even he did not have a simple solution to this desire to want someone. Oh, the asteya we missed. Asteya is stealing. Now, why do you steal? See, you might be a kleptomanic. If you are a kleptomanic, then it's a disease with you. Otherwise, you feel the want, and you feel that there is no way that you can get it. There's a very famous work, Dr. Jivago. Some of you might have read that book, Dr. Jivago. It's an amazing book, Dr. Jivago. And they gave Nobel Prize for the book. In Dr. Jivago, there is a situation where the Dr. Jivago himself, because of the World War, things have gone very bad and there is no firewood. So he goes out in the streets and somewhere he sees, I don't remember, I read it long ago, that he comes across some wood, some fencing or something, and he steals, and he himself feels so bad about it. He's such a famous person, Dr. Jivago, but he has fallen to such conditions that he has to steal. He regrets, but he does. But a yogi doesn't mind, because yogi doesn't depend on anyone, and yogi is not responsible for anyone, so he doesn't have to steal. As far as his own body is concerned, through his training of long years, he learns how to ignore his body. He doesn't have to steal. And fortunately, in India, we have a joke that two classes of people in India will never starve: military and the monks. Military because the government will feed it. Monks because the society will feed it. So no monk has been ever heard of dying of hunger. India being a religious country, it looks after its man of God. People may abuse monks, people may make fun of the monks, but they won't let them die of hunger. And the wants of a yogi are really meager, so he doesn't have to steal. Now you say that you want to stay in the family and want to be a yogi. Can you manage? Yes, it's not that difficult. You can do it. And aparigraha. Aparigraha is non-acceptance of gifts. If you want to be a yogi, you must not accept gifts. Even you see that those who are ministers and those who are in certain posts in the government offices, they do not accept gifts. It's prohibited. Now, Swamiji explains, a man who wants to be a perfect yogi must give up the sex idea. The soul has no sex. Now, coming back to what we discussed in the beginning, think of the Atman. Atman has no sex. So how can you have that sex idea? You know, one beautiful thing about Sri Ramakrishna's sadhana is that when he applied himself to any sadhana, he was true to it completely. When Totapuri came to Dakshineshwar, Totapuri initiated Sri Ramakrishna into sannyas, and Sri Ramakrishna became sannyasi. And for 3 days, he was not living in his room. He was living in the courtyard, in the Dakshineshwar temple. And Hridayaram, his nephew, he was sister's son, he was there to take care. And then Sri Ramakrishna tells him beautifully, "Oh, Hridaya, I'm a sannyasi. I cannot take food, what you prepare. I have to live by begging. So give me some food." It's a beautiful thing. If you are into something, be fully into it. You want to be a yogi. Your aspiration is to be established in Atman. Then you have to behave as if you're already established in Atman. Atman has no sex. So how can you be involved into sex? We shall see how these things play a very important role, maybe in the next talk. And then the Swamiji explains or parigraha as whenever we accept gifts from somebody, the mind of that person acts upon our own mind. It can be very dangerous, very dangerous, very dangerous. Our young monks and brahmacharis, brahmachari means novices, those who are new into it, they are strictly asked to adhere to this principle, not to accept gifts. Sometimes some of my friends come and bring some gifts and they want to some gift to the young ones. I strictly say, no, you cannot. And what's this food? I mean, there are devotees, they will come with some sweets, they will come with some gifts. We do accept. How else Ramakrishna Mission will run? Because the entire organization runs on gifts. But then, not personally. It goes to the shrine or it's distributed amongst halls. Nothing personal about it. Now, even when you have accepted it, the mind of that person will act upon you and will degrade you. However, people who are coming to us, generally they have noble feelings. Generally they are spiritually a bit elevated, spiritually uplifted. But in society, people who are living around, they are all full of tamas and rajas. And whenever they make a gift, when we were kids, we would share our things out with our friends. And the moment there was a quarrel, we'd want it back. I'm sure many of you might have done something like that when you were kids. When we grow up and we make gifts, there is an anticipation attached with that. Some kind of anticipation will always be there. Only a monk can make gifts where there is no attachment. They don't want anything. They just feel like giving. So normally what we do is if we need something, we go to our elders and we ask for something. If they have, they give. Otherwise, we are satisfied with now. There was a time, my favorite statement was, I bask in the glory of my poverty. Now, of course, things have improved a bit. It's not that bad. But most monks bask in the glory of their poverty because they will not accept gifts. Swamiji says, who receives gift is acted on by the mind of the giver, so the receiver is likely to become degenerated. Please keep this in mind. If you want to grow spiritually, stop accepting gifts. Receiving gifts is prone to destroy the independence of the mind. It destroys. Your mind is independent. The moment you accept gift from somebody, you kind of get obligated to him or her. Independence of the mind is lost. Patanjali just adds one sutra which is not which is not directly related to yoga. He says, Ete jati desh kal samayan avachinna sarvabhauma mahavratam. Mahavrata. In Jain tradition also there is this concept of Mahavrata. Mahavrata, great vows. They say that even if you don't want to be a yogi, the practices of these five, these are noble. The practice is noble. Why? Because these, unbroken by time, place, purpose, and caste rules. That means these are universal values. These need to be practiced by all, definitely by the yogis. What is religion? I mean, religious practice. This yama, ahimsa, satya, steya, brahmacharya, or parigraha. Irrespective of who you are, irrespective of what you are doing, should be practicing these things. And there was a time I used to go a lot to IIM Indore, Indian Institute of Management, and I used to tell those students, let's see, these five values, try to practice as much as you can. You are into money making, definitely you will be into money making and you want to get more and more of it. But you also need to apply brakes, because if you don't apply brakes, instead of a running car, it will become a runaway car. How to check yourself, how to control yourself. These five values, these need to be practiced by one and all. So Swamiji says these practices, that is ahimsa, satya, steya, brahmacharya, parigraha, every man, woman, and child, by every soul, irrespective of nation, country, or position, everyone should practice. Then comes niyama. These are the virtues. There is a slight difference between values and virtues. Values are a must. Virtues can sometimes take a break. Although yogis, yogis say that there is never a holiday in morality. No holiday in the practice of virtues. Shauch, santosh, tapa, swadhyaya, ishwar, pranidhanani, niyama. After yama, discussion is on niyama. This is a second rung. First rung was yama, then comes niyama. You need to practice niyama. Shauch. Shauch is cleanliness. External cleanliness and inner purity. Quite often people say that, what is the use of cleaning yourself outside when your inside is pure? No, you need to practice both. External cleanliness and inner. Here they mean external cleanliness, as we shall see. Santosh is contentment. Be happy with what you have. The job that you are doing. See, nowadays these young people, they start earning so much at such a young age. I One of my friends was once Director General Police, and his son was in, I think, IT industry or some management. And this gentleman was saying that, see, the salary that I am getting at the time of my retirement, my son is getting at the time of joining. What will happen to these kids? He was lamenting. And really things went wrong with that boy. Because by the time you join something, by the time you join some job, some responsibility, discontentment has set in. You want to grow and grow and grow. You're running. You don't know where you are running. You don't know why you are running. You just know how to run. In my book, Tia, I've described them as donkeys on a trot. They're just running. They just want to be like horses. Stop. If you feel that this world is becoming like a rat race, if you are into that kind of job where you are earning a lot, it means you have qualification. Change your job. Sacrifice some salary and see how much peace you get. Sacrifice your job and see how much contentment comes within you. 2 days ago, I was reading one paper by some American lady, a very nice paper, and she says that your job cannot come to your rescue when you are in trouble. Only human beings can. Learn to invest in relations. Money is important. It's not all important. Santosh, unless you have complete contentment, you cannot be a yogi. Tapasya is focusing your mind on one single purpose. Tapasya is way of life. In sadhana, what happens? You apply your mind, you apply your attention to a particular thing on a regular basis for a long time. But tapasya is a 24-hour job and for a very long time. You're totally dedicated to it. No gaps. Swadhyay, regular study. Like those of you who are listening to these YouTube talks, you're into Swadhyay. You're listening to these talks. Because spiritual books and listening to spiritual talks keep your mind at higher level. You cannot allow your mind to come down below a level under any condition at any time. And Ishwar Pranidhan is worship of God, kind of your attachment with God. It has to be all the time. I tell my friends and those who come to me, see, take a break from whatever you are doing every 2 to 3 minutes every hour. Just 2 to 3 minutes every hour. Like you go for toilet and you go for drinking water, just like that. Supposing you are into teaching, there will be a break in the class. One period is over and next period will begin. Just take a break for 2, 3 minutes. Think of the Lord residing in your heart, or think of the presence of God all around you. Apart from your daily practices, daily sadhana, now it's 8 a.m., 2 minute or 5 minute break. 9, 10, 11. You'll say that it disturbs work. No, it will generate tremendous power within you. Try doing it. Try. So, this is niyama. So we covered yam and niyam, two steps covered, and Patanjali will now discuss in detail the importance of yam and niyam. This we take up in the next talk. Thank you.